Welcome to the Nevcast, where three bros talk business, art, justice, and the pursuit of Jesus.
Any day above ground is a good day.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and kiss 30 minutes goodbye with Peter Nevland,
Dave Nevland,
and
Rashi.
Now, maybe God gives you that plan and he says, okay, for these 6 years, I want you to save up this much of your income. Okay, great. And then in the seventh year, you just take a year off and then provide your gift. Or he may go, no, you just act as normal and watch me provide. And it comes up to that time and you say no. And who knows? Who knows what kind of favor he gives you with your boss, where your boss goes, hey, take a year off. When you come back, you have a job waiting for you. Or maybe he goes, you know what? Do that. And we're going to pay you a little bit. I don't know. Who knows what God puts in people's hearts, right?
Right. And then another part of the big...
I mean, what do you think about that, Rashi? Does that sound like crazy? Clark, does that sound crazy?
Yeah.
I'll let Rashid answer.
Coming from a rich man like yourself, it don't sound crazy. You know, you got that money, Peter, so you do that.
Well, I don't know. Clark wasn't necessarily rich before you took a year off, were you, Clark?
I didn't feel rich.
Not many of us do.
I mean, rich is a relative term.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel more or less wealthy now after that year of rest? Like the sense of, I'm not worried about finances.
I would say I have just as many opportunities to worry about finances today than I did prior.
As you did prior, yeah.
But I'm being just as provided for today as I was prior and during.
Yeah.
I would think that would increase your confidence that God is going to come through for you in these years, like he did in that year.
Yeah. And like I would say, I don't come out of that experience going around telling people like, hey, you should take a year off. Like, God's going to take care of it. You should take a year off. Like, and I'm not saying that if that is someone's message that they shouldn't be saying that. I'm just saying that's not what my message. What I come away from this experience is, man, just obey Jesus. Like, just seek his kingdom, and he's going to provide for you. And I do believe that 95% of the people and 95% of the time, seeking God's kingdom, it entails you having a job where you're providing for your family and yourself, because that is obedience. I mean, Ephesians, Paul says, hey, everyone needs to work so that you can not be dependent on people and that you can share with others. And so I think seeking God's kingdom looks like waking up and, it looks like Rashid getting in the truck and driving for 12 hours in a day. I mean, that's just as much seeking the kingdom as deciding to take a year off or whatever. It's like, it's all about just obey Jesus and seek him, seek his kingdom, and do it to the best of your ability, using the understanding you have of what that looks like.
Yeah. And we've talked about this on other episodes of the Nevcast, where you're trying to hear God's voice. What is hearing God's voice, and what is it's part and parcel with hearing him, stepping out in the faith on what he's said, because you feel the peace that you can't hardly help but explain, that is from him. And then watching, because God doesn't explain everything in that way. He doesn't explain the end and the beginning, whatever. He says to do things, and you obey, and you feel peace because you're with him and you're joined to him. And then, whoa, the outcome is bigger and crazier than you could have imagined. I mean, I as you're talking about that, I was thinking of a little bit of an example from a couple of nights ago. And this is a very small example compared to you guys, but it was at the end of a gathering, and I felt like and there was a person who wanted prayer for something, but those of us who were standing up there ready to pray for someone were given the instruction not to let people come to us, but to look out and see what God was saying for us to say over or to someone that is coming. And I couldn't get away from, at one point, looking at this one person and seeing the word trial, like TRIAL. I'm like, what is that? Trial. And I go up to her and I say, I have this impression of the word trial. Does that mean anything to you? And then she explained to me a situation. I didn't know this person from Eve. She explained to me a situation in her life that was going on that that was possibly ending in a trial, was going to in court. It was going to include a trial in court, and that she really needed some direction on. And then I was like, it was made for us, like God was saying, through me, I see you, I'm in it. I'm not separate from you. Boom. And then got to pray for her. And as that happened, then it was like God gave me more as in that moment praying for her, that really, really spoke to her and helped her hear God's voice in that situation. So it was like there was a multiplication of people hearing God's voice in that scenario. Me trying to figure out what, just to step out in obedience and in humility, and then boom, then things happening to this other person and to me, really, in that way. And we've kind of talked a little bit about that on other episodes of the Nevcast, but this is the same thing. It's just maybe a little bit more of a macro application of it.
Well, and I think maybe even on that same night that you're talking about, there was another person that came up to me and was talking to me, and I started asking her about where she is, and she's trying to figure out what direction she wants to go in and all this kind of stuff. And she said, well, I just felt like God, asked me to rest, to take some time to rest. She said, so I started doing this blog, and I started doing this, putting out these other posts and trying to do these other things or whatever. And I was like, hey, I said, listen, didn't God say to you to rest? Like that? I said, well, it doesn't sound like you're resting. I said, when God's saying to you to rest, He's not saying that He wants you to. He's not saying that He wants you to do a bunch of stuff to provide for yourself. If He wants you to rest, He wants to take care of you. He wants to provide for you. He wants to love on you. You need to know that you are worth that. And as I started saying this stuff to her and started just speaking God's heart over her, for His desire for her to just rest and let Him take care of her, tears are just coming down her face. Like I have not allowed myself to be loved by God because I think I've got to do all this stuff. And I said, well, I've been doing that a lot. And I was like, well, it sounds like the Lord just wants to love on you some more. And so then I got to introduce her to some other ladies in the church that she could connect with, and all this. It was just great. It was fantastic. But I think sometimes when we press in to hear the voice of God, God says something that we might not be comfortable with or we haven't done before. And when He does that, it's easy for us to go, well, I'm just going to go and do what I usually do. And God might be going, no, hold on. You stop doing for a bit and let me take care of you, so that when you start doing again, you're doing it with a different attitude. You're doing it out of a different place of understanding who I am and understanding who you are. Because that changes you, and it changes the people around you when that happens.
Yeah,
that's good.
And that's the point. That's some of the point. I mean, that is the point.
That's the point. Can we tune our ears to the voice of God? Because the voice of God doesn't always fit what we've seen before, but it'll always fit what He's like.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we haven't experienced all. I mean, I am probably never going to exhaust experiencing all the different facets of God's character. And I think it's really on His heart that He wants me to experience more of His character.
Yeah.
and he wants each of us
Absolutely.
to experience more of his character.
Yeah. Now I was thinking,
So
what do you want to
oh,
do, Peter? I was going to throw in something else, another aspect of this, but go ahead if you got something.
well, I was going to ask you, Clark, because I sort of said this before I got Rashi back on. What was the impact that this had
Oh yeah.
on your wife, on your kids, when in taking this year of rest?
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. One, just the sheer fact that we did it, that my wife and I took this leap of faith and we saw God provide. I think that just that increased, all of our confidence. I mean, we would talk about with our kids, but I don't know how much they really. All they knew is like, oh, we still have breakfast and we still have lunch and dinner, and like Dad's still gone 8 hours a day. Like, I don't know how much they were like really in touch with what was going on, even though we would tell them, like, guys, God's providing, So, but for my wife, I know that her faith level definitely increased. Like, whoa, we can do this sort of stuff. God's really going to provide. And I like to think that my kids absorbed some of that as well. And but I think the bigger way my kids have been impacted is, I mean, as parents, I mean, if we are like we are a fountain, and anyone who lives downstream of us, and they're drinking out of that water. The purer we can make that fountain, like if there are like dead carcasses up, rotting away up at the fountainhead, like everyone downstream is going to be drinking that junk. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
by what God did in me, just that whole call to being present, being more present. Like, of course, my kids have benefited from a dad who's more present, a dad who's got more joy in his life. And so I would say that's kind of the main way my family has benefited, is just having a more present dad, a more joy filled dad. But I mean, it's still a battle. It's still, there are days where I'm
Sure.
not any of those things, but
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I wish that the year of rest was all Shangri-La, and yet there's still sometimes when I get frustrated and, upset, or, my kids act out, or, I get in an argument with my wife, whatever, and we still have to, go and lay down our self and ask forgiveness and seek God and get back in the Lord's presence. But it seems like we have more of those times of being able. It's maybe it's easier to do that, or more able, or something.
Yeah.
I feel like I noticed coming up to this year where we were going to do it again. I started reflecting a little bit on that first year of rest, and I noticed a change in the way that I did business before that first year of rest that I took. Afterwards, I treated the people that I worked with, the people that were on my teams, as far more valuable than I treated them before. Before, I thought, well, I really am the best at doing this, and if I get somebody else to do it, like they might, do a passable job type of thing. I was had that kind of arrogance going on, and after that year of rest, it was like, I am so thankful for these people. They're not just as good as me; they're probably better than I am, and it actually is to my benefit to have them doing as much as possible, and me stepping back and just encouraging and directing and giving strategy, to the point where, I've said, that the hallmark of a really good leader, the first thing you've got to have is that you value the people that you lead as equal to or better than yourself.
All right.
And almost, yeah.
I'm listening from the perspective of working with you a lot on things, and so it's but at the same time, I've known you a lot longer than just being a co-laborer or a co-worker in a way, or working for you or working with you. So I don't know if yeah, I don't know if I recognize the disparity in your just, man, you had a terrible attitude before you started doing this, and now you don't. So
Well,
so that may
it
be a little
wasn't.
bit
It
more
wasn't
internal,
as
but
obvious.
yeah. But
I would
you're
say
still
these
at the
things
beginning of this in
they're
a way.
subtle sometimes.
What?
You know, they're subtle sometimes. Sometimes this stuff gets in us and we don't even realize we
Yeah.
got that attitude
Yeah.
until God brings it out, and it's like, oh yeah, so you want to change that a little bit more.
I mean,
You know?
you were describing some arrogance about yourself, and I'm saying that I don't know if I saw that in you.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But they're definitely. I had a hard time letting go and saying, well, this thing that I've been doing that I'm going to hand over to somebody else to do, it was hard for me to trust that they were going to do a fantastic job at it.
Yeah.
And I don't have as much of that issue anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I wanted to throw out another part of the aspect, another part of this concept, and see what you guys think of this, because I notice a similarity. I'm gonna identify a possible similarity between the two of you doing this. I mean, I haven't done what y'all have done, but a similarity between the two of you is that you have a pretty wide community of people who know you, who know your history, and who you've been in friendship community with for a while, and during this time you are communicating to them your feeling, your heart, what you feel like God was saying to you. Neither one of you are hermits living off by yourself. I mean, it's possible.
Right.
Maybe it would be easier to do this as someone living more as a hermit. What do you think is the benefit, or how has that maybe affected you going into this time and then coming out of it, right? That people in your wide community that are with you, for you, whatever, know this, and you're doing it kind of in community, or were you doing it out of community, or how do you think that would affect it, or is that even important necessarily?
Absolutely.
Well, I'll let Clark answer that one first.
Absolutely. I think community it's a safeguard. It's a guardrail, and, we all, in New Testament, we're all prophets, right? We all hear the Lord, and yet still the Lord's like, submit it to each other and let weigh what is said, and so even, in my experience, having people that I can say, this is what I'm thinking, and for them the best thing they can do is challenge it. Because if I still come out on the other side, if I'm able to answer their challenges, and I'll come out on the other side even more confident, yeah, this is what God is saying, if it is truly what God is saying. You see what I'm saying? So I think community is a safeguard that God's put in our lives. I mean, it's a million things, but one of those things is it's a safeguard. And if anyone who does not have that safeguard in their life, you can end up doing some pretty screwy things. Maybe you do the right thing, but in the wrong way, or you do the wrong thing altogether.
That's right. That's good. I agree. I think, one, you get that, safety of challenging the idea. The other thing that I think I saw happen was when I stopped and I communicated this to people, I'm going to take a year off. I noticed people both in my what I would call my church community and people in the business community giving me the grace, and I found that I was more loved than I realized. It opened up the possibility for me to actually receive more love than I had been receiving, and that's a pretty wonderful thing. And even to the point where non-Christians, it's been a big testimony to them. And I had one guy who's a non-Christian and has always been opposed to me talking about Jesus at all with him. Called me up, said, "Hey, I hear you're doing this. Where is that?" I said, "What do you mean? Where is that?" It's like, where is that? Like in the Bible? I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, here's where it is in the Bible, but here's what I'm doing, because it's not like I'm not doing some like strict legal thing. Like before this year happened, we prayed and talked about it I talked about it with Vicky. And we prayed about it and talked about it with the Lord, and we decided together these are what our boundaries are going to be for this year. This is what rest means to us this year, and we feel like this is what God's saying to us. And so I don't have this strict thing of I can't pick a turnip out of the ground because I'm taking a year of rest. It's like, I've actually taken a 1 week out of the month. I'm on calls, but I've actually given all the running of all my clients and stuff to all my teams and stuff. So, there's not this strict thing. But so anyway, in telling him that stuff, he's like super interested in actually doing it himself.
Yeah.
And wanting to hang out and talk and just talk about life and stuff. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Just
I know this person.
Living this out is a testimony to people who are believers and people who are unbelievers that God's way more real than you thought.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to deny.
Yeah. Yeah. I know this person, and I know that he has a background with God, and then he's had a long season where he's pretty much not paid attention to that and tried to get away in a way from what he thought was too harsh or whatever, too irrelevant. And that's really cool. I don't know if there were many other things that would get his attention like that. Not that that's why you did it, but yeah, it's really cool. And I wanted to bring that out as far as the community aspect of it, because it could seem somewhat like you're going into hermitage when you're not. You're not necessarily going into hermitage, but at the same point, go ahead.
I have more time to spend with people now.
Right.
It's what the other thing is that I found was that I had actually been asking the Lord, hey God, I would love some, more friends, like more guy friends. And right before this year, out of the blue, like 4 or 5 guys were like, "Hey, can we hang out?" And I'm like, "What? This is fantastic. Like, I like this. I like having friends, like in my regular life, like not off around the world that I see once a year or, once every couple of years or something like that, but people that I see on a regular basis who know me, who are speaking into my life, that I can speak into their life." And God, God's not just interested, I don't think, in providing for us financially. He's interested in taking care of our soul. Like Clark said, our soul is bigger than our role. And God wants to pour his soul into our soul, and he wants to do it not just by himself, but he wants to do it with his people.
Yeah.
That's powerful. It's making me feel, I want to cry right now just thinking about how much God loves me.
Yeah.
That he's not just interested in making me wealthy with money. He's interested really in making me wealthy with him. And if there's money associated with that, well, great. That's fine. It helps me to have more ways to bless people. But if it's just with people, if it's just with my wife and children, if it's just whatever, oh, wow, aren't you good, God?
So hear God's voice, step out in faith.
Yeah.
It's the message, right? That's the message.
Rashi, is there anything you're hearing in this that, you just think it needs to be shared?
I know, I'm just soaking up game, man. That's all. I'm just listening.
You're so quiet, you know.
I know. I told myself that was something I started before last year. I told myself I'm gonna start listening more versus start talking as much. I like to listen more, man, versus I'm always trying to voice my opinion. You know, so I was reading in an article that you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that ought to tell you something.
That's right. That's so good. Well, and you know what? I tell you, there's nothing like a year of rest to help you start really listening, paying attention. Because with when you're not so busy and you're not so distracted with so much stuff going on, you realize a lot more of the things that are going on around you. You can listen a lot better. Would you say that's true, Clark?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, you slow down. You become more aware of things around you.
Well, we had a guy on recently. His name Chris Lopez, and he said that in his pastoring of the church that he pastors, this verse that stuck out to him was when Jacob told Esau, "No, we're going to go at the pace of the children." And in some ways, Jacob was being a little manipulative of Esau when he said that, but in another way, Jacob was a shepherd, and you can't drive sheep faster. If you try to drive sheep faster, they won't do it, and they won't make it. They actually need to go slow, and our kids need us to go slow with them. And when we go at the pace of the kids, something good happens with us too.
Right. No doubt.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
It's so good. Well, man, Clark, thank you so much for being on and sharing your story. And is there any way that people? I mean, you're kind of coaching now. If somebody wanted to come and just get kind of your perspective or maybe get some help or something, how could they get in touch with you? Or if somebody wanted to support you or whatever.
Boom.
Sure. You can email me. Clark Zaun at gmail.com.
ZON? No.
ZAUN. CLARK ZAUN at gmail.
There we go.
Nice.
Look, we've got there's the email right there. You're gonna put it right there.
And I'll just put out there too. If you are going, man, I really need like an amazing worship song written for my congregation, you should contact
It's
Clark.
true, Clark.
Because he is a fantastic songwriter.
It's true.
Like really,
there's a couple
really
people on this call you could reach out to about that.
Clark, there's so many songs of yours that I'll wake up in the morning and that's the first song that's in my mind. I'm in the shower just worshiping the Lord and connecting with God through the words that you have written, the music that you've written. So thank you for doing that and being faithful to just follow the Lord and seek God first.
Thanks, Peter.
Yeah.
True. All right.
Well, I think that's it for this edition of the Nevcast. We hope to see you again soon. And we just appreciate you guys joining with us. And, wherever you are, just take a second and go, God, what do you want to say to me? Or, God, what do you think of me? And then just listen to him. Whatever he says, I guarantee you it's going to be really, really good.
That's right. Soul over roll.
That's right.
That's right. That's how we roll.
That's it for the Nevcast this time. Join us next week when we talk justice, business, and art in pursuit of Jesus. We will see you soon.